Welcome to another episode of The Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. In today's episode, we're going to talk about an API flaw in the Lego marketplace that put potentially hundreds of thousands of users at risk. And one of the increasing problems in, doing everything online is security, our information being protected, information and it's like we have to trust these companies with our data, with our information, and we don't know the quality of their engineers, the quality of their QA, all that good stuff, right? So we have to be extra diligent, extra careful. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that we can do. So let's get into it. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live. Like the video, share the video with somebody who will find it useful, and check out the Patreon. There's tons and tons of valuable information in there that will help you get so much better at everything. It'll help you in your tech career, it'll help you in your mindset, it'll give you the tools that I use to be successful in my field. Anything you need. And you have access to me. You can reach out to me, ask me any questions, and I will find a way to get you the necessary information, to get you the answers that you're looking for. But let's get into the topic, right? We're talking about Lego's online platform where there was a major API flaw which had the potential to expose thousands and thousands of user information. And that is an increasing risk as we move more and more towards the digital age. Back in the days, it was people trying to like steal your information to file taxes under your name, and then they get the money. But now it just makes it so much easier to go through these situations with the ease of online access. So let's jump right in and figure out what happened with this potential data breach. All right. So today's article is brought to us by Dark Reading. All right, and the title: API flaw in Lego Marketplace put user accounts data at risk. And have a small headline, right? It says, and the headline says, and it says, attackers also could breach internal production data to compromise a corporate network using vulnerabilities found in the Bricklink online platform. So let's go through the article written by Elizabeth Montalbano, all right, contributor to Dark Reading. And this story is from December 15, 2022, all right? API, so it says API flaws in a widely used Lego online marketplace could have allowed attackers to take over user accounts, leak sensitive data stored on the platform, and even gain access to internal production data to compromise corporate services, researchers have found. Now, this sounds very terrifying, but what in the world is an API? All right. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. What that means is the way that an API works, you don't see it in action, right? It happens totally in the background. And APIs are used all the time, every single day. Whether, if you think about it, any software you think about, any online platform you think about, if you're using it, it has an API, right? APIs pretty much run technology nowadays. Back then, it wasn't as prevalent back then. Like there weren't even like people asking for, there weren't even jobs like testing it. Now it's like any job that you're going to take in tech, right? Whether it's a software engineer, a web developer, QA engineer, you're going to need to know how to use APIs, how to connect to them, how to test them, all that stuff, right? Because what the API does is it's able to serve you the data that is needed to power an application, and you can take that data and you can put it in pretty much wherever you want, as long as you're connecting to that API, right? So on a website, you can, let's say you have a e-commerce website, right? And the API is able to give you a list of customers and all of that. So you can make an API call and you can display that information however it is that you see fit. Okay. So that's pretty much how an API works. And now a flaw in the API that the Lego online marketplace used could have allowed attackers to take over your account, my account, if I had one, my account. It could allow those hackers to leak sensitive data that's stored on the Lego's online marketplace. And to make matters worse, it could allow these hackers to gain access to the internal production data of the Lego's online platform and compromise things that happen in like the corporate, you know, secrets of the organization, all that type of stuff, right? Those things become at risk. So let's continue. It says researchers from Salt Labs discovered the vulnerabilities in Bricklink, a digital resale platform owned by the Lego Group for buying and selling secondhand Legos, demonstrating that the technology-wise, anyways, not all the company's toy pieces snap perfectly into place. All right. Salt Security research arm Salt Security's research arm discovered both vulnerabilities by investigating areas of the site that support user input fields. Shiran Yodev, Salt Lab security researcher, revealed in a report published on December 15th. The researchers found each of the core flaws that could be exploited for attack in parts of the site that allow for user input, which they said is often a place where API security issues, a complex and costly problem for organizations, arise. All right. And this goes into the software explorations video that we just released talking about database testing, security testing, and things of that nature, right? The article reads, one flaw was a cross-site scripting XSS vulnerability that enabled them to inject and execute code on a victim end user's machine through a crafted link, they said. The other allowed for the execution of XML external entity injection attack, where an XML input containing a reference to an external entity is processed by a weakly configured XML parser. So this is the way that people hack into sites, right? They take these forms and then through the forms they inject some type of code that once it's ran, it gets processed on the on the submission of the form, causing things to go haywire inside of the application, and it starts lets you in. And I've been like some sites that I've done in the past. I've been a victim to these type of attacks on forms. So API weaknesses abound. The researchers were careful to stress that they didn't intend to single out Lego as a particular negligent technology provider. On the contrary, API flaws in internet-facing applications are incredibly common, they said. And that is true. They are incredibly common. If we see the amount of sites that get hacked and accounts that get hacked, there is a key reason for that, Yodev tells Dark Reading. No matter the competency of an IT design and development team, API security is a new discipline that all web developers and designers are still figuring out. Facts. We rarely find these kind of serious API vulnerabilities in all sorts of online services we investigate, he says. Even companies with the most robust application security tooling and advanced security teams frequently have gaps in their API business logic. And while both flaws could have been discovered easily through pre-production security testing, API security is still an afterthought for many organizations. So, with that being said, right, and those were notes by Scott Gerlach, co-founder and CSO of Stackhawk, an API security testing provider, right? With that being said, that means, right, if it's a easy to catch, but still an afterthought. We, as software engineers, as data engineers, as web developers, as QA engineers, as DevOps engineers, right? We need to take this to the forefront of our mind because we cannot, if we can prevent these type of attacks, we add even more and more value to our organization and more value to our customers. So with that being said, we cannot allow API security to be an afterthought. We have to bring it to the foreground. It should be part of our test plan that once we are testing the APIs, like the requests that are being made, the responses, we also need to test out the security of the API. Right? It usually doesn't come into play until after an API has already been deployed, or in other cases, the organizations are using legacy tools not built to test APIs thoroughly, leaving vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting and injection attacks undiscovered, right? So let's make a note of that. We need to make sure we're testing for cross-site scripting and injection attacks, especially through API security, through the API layer. All right. So personal interest rapid response. The research to investigate Lego's Brink link was not meant to shame or blame Lego or make anyone look bad, but rather to demonstrate how common these mistakes are and to educate companies on steps they can take to protect their key data and services. UDEV says the Lego Group is one of the largest toy companies and massively recognizable brand that can indeed draw people's attention to the issue, the researcher said. The company earns billions of dollars in revenue per year, not only because of the children's interest in using Legos, but also as a result of an entire adult hobby community, of which Yodev admits he is one, that also collects and builds Lego sets. Because of the popularity of Legos, Bricklink has more than 1 million members that use its site. So this could have actually affected 1 million people, right? Over 1 million people. The researchers discovered the flaw on October 18th, and to its credit, Lego responded quickly when Salt Security revealed the issue to the company on October 23rd, confirming the disclosure within 2 days. Tests conducted by Salt Labs confirmed shortly after, on November 10th, that the issue had been resolved. The researcher said, "Awesome, right?" And this is great. This is great. In some places it might take forever to address this, but they said, "No, this is a big issue. A lot of customers' lives are at risk to be impacted. Let's fix this now." So, however, due to Lego's internal policy, they cannot share any information regarding the reported vulnerabilities, and we are therefore unable to positively confirm. You'd have acknowledged. Moreover, this policy also prevents Salt Labs from confirming or denying if attackers exploited either of the flaws in the wild, he says. Snapping together the vulnerabilities, researchers found the XSS flaw in the find username dialog box of Bricklink's coupon search functionality, leading to an attack chain using session ID exposed on a different page. They said, in the find username dialog box, a user can write a free text that eventually ends up rendered into the web page's HTML. Yodev wrote, users can abuse this open field to input text that can lead to an XSS condition. Though the researchers couldn't use the flaw on its own to mount an attack, they found an exposed session ID on a different page that could combine with XSS flaw to hijack a user session and achieve account takeover, ATO. They explained, bad actors could use these tactics for full account takeover or steal sensitive user data. Researchers uncovered the second flaw in another part of the platform that receives direct user input called upload to wanted list, which allows Bricklink users to upload a list of wanted Lego parts and or sets in XML format. They said the vulnerability was present due to how the site's XML parser uses XML external entities, a part of the XML standard that defines a concept called an entity or a storage unit of some type. Yodev explained in the post. In the case of Bricklink's page, the implementation was vulnerable to a condition in which the XML processor may disclose confidential information that's typically not accessible by the application he wrote. Researchers exploited the flaw to mount an XXE injection attack that allows a system file read with the permissions of the running user. This attack, the type of attack, also can allow for an additional attack vector using server-side request forgery, which might enable an attacker to gain credentials for an application running on Amazon Web Services and thus breach an internal network, the researchers said. So let's read how we can avoid similar API flaws. Researchers shared some advice to help enterprises avoid creating similar API issues that can be exploited on internet-facing applications in their own environments. In the case of API vulnerabilities, attackers can inflict the most dangerous if they combine attacks on various issues or conduct them in quick succession. Yodev wrote, something we researchers demonstrated in the case with the Lego flaw. To avoid the scenario created with the XSS flaw, organizations should follow the rule of thumb to never trust user input. Facts. Inputs should be properly sanitized and escaped, he added, referring organizations to the XSS prevention cheat sheet by Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP, for information on this topic. So let's finish up. It says organizations should also be careful in their implementation of session ID on web-facing sites because it's a common target for hackers who can leverage its session hijacking and account takeover. Yoda wrote, it is important to be careful. It is important to be very careful when handling it and not expose or misuse it for other purposes, he explained. And wrapping it up, finally, the easiest way to stop XXE injection attacks like the one researchers demonstrated is to completely disable external entities in your XML parser's configuration. The researchers said the OWASP has another useful resource called the XXE prevention cheat sheet that can guide organizations in this task. All right. So that was a very, very interesting article about this data breach or this potential data breach. I'm not sure if any hackers were able to exploit it. The way that Legos handled it, they don't have to disclose it, right? But they did fix it and pretty fast as well. So that being said, this is like today we learned about APIs. We learned about security testing, about hacking. And I think this is like very prevalent information. If you are a software engineer, a DevOps person, a web designer, a QA engineer, whatever the case, a site reliability engineer, whatever the case may be, we need to have this at our forefront because security and data is not only the cybersecurity person's job, it is all of our jobs. Just like QA is all of our jobs, right? We need to, our goal is to provide the best software for our customers. And if we expose their security and like their information and their profile, then we fail them and we should not be failing our customers and our clients. Let's move API security from being an afterthought to being right on the front of our mind. So the way that we would test an API functionality or website functionality, we also need to take into consideration how would we test the security of that API as well. All right. So that's the article for today. We talked about the Legos online marketplace and their data breach or potential data breach issues. So if you found this informative, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live or we drop another video. Hit the like button, share the video, share it with a friend or a QA engineer or anybody who would find it useful, because as customers as well, we need to make sure we're taking the necessary steps to protect our own data. All right. So do all of that. Subscribe to the channel and check out the Patreon. See if it's something that'll add value to your life and sign up. Whatever tier you sign up for, go ahead and sign up. And we have like so much information that's coming out in there, so many strategies, all that. Like I said, For those who are in the Patreon, you have access to my mind. You have the way that I can think and find solutions on the fly. All right. So that's today's show. That's today's episode talking about Lego Online Marketplace. Looking forward to seeing you again. And until next time, this is Tech Coach Ralph signing off.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.